as we look at EU-Israel relations in particular, will the relations now be normalized after the calls for sanctions against Israel, including a partial suspension of the EU-Israel Association Agreement? And will the anti-Israel sentiments continue in Europe? This will be our questions today. Joining us in the program this week here in the European Parliament is Portuguese member of the European Parliament, António Tânger Corrêa, who is Vice Chairman of the Patriots for Europe political group, and of course, European Coalition for Israel founding director, Thomas Sandel. Thank you both for joining me. My name is Yossi Lemkovic from European Jewish Press and Europe-Israel Press Association. This is the European Report. I will start with you, MEP Tânger Corrêa. Before entering politics, you are a member of the Chega party in Portugal, but before it, you had an extensive diplomatic career, and it's really amazing. With several important postings, you are not only a staunch supporter of the State of Israel, but you have also a long and interesting history in connecting to Israel. And I would like to have can you share it with our viewers about your connections to Israel?
Well, my connections with Israel, first of all, thank you very much, and thank you for having me today here. My connection with the State of Israel is very old. And some of the beginnings, they were a little bit not so intense, but always positive. And then it ended up of me being ambassador to Israel, of Portugal to Israel, during the Second Intifada. It was a difficult time, but it was a real good time, fortunately, to know the resilience and to know how the Israelis do cope with menaces, with bombs, with attacks. And they were not attacks of low intensity, were attacks of high intensity vis-à-vis the First Intifada. So I've been always a little bit present in Israel. Israel has been always present in my mind. And now, as you know, we are against the sanctions to Israel, my group, and also we are against the, even partially, to end up the agreement between Israel and the European Union. We think that's not the way to do things. I think the things are going on a very positive way. Peace, which was the most important thing to achieve, is achieved, at least some kind of peace. I think the problems are not solved, but I also think that the problems will never be solved.
And we noticed also that Portugal, your country, has not been the strongest supporter of Israel in the European Union in the aftermath of the 7th of October massacres. What are the reasons for that? How would you rate the relations between Portugal and Israel in 2025? And in which groups of countries in Europe would you put Portugal in relations to Israel?
Well, it's not easy. It's not easy because it's not very understandable, this attitude of Portugal, at least from the Portuguese government to Israel. It's not. I think the real problem becomes from the aggressive press against Israel. And so our politicians, they are intimidated by what's coming in the press. And I was the first one the next day in an interview saying that Mr. Guterres was a complete fool, saying the 7th of October didn't happen by accident. I mean, this is obviously a very serious statement. And a man in his position cannot have a statement like this, because he was almost blaming Israel for the 7th of October massacres. And you cannot do it. And since then, actually, even before that, I was in Egypt, and I was ambassador to Egypt when I was a commissioner for the refugees. Already then, his attitude was very much anti-Israel. Why? I have no idea. What is behind that? Something is behind that for sure, because he claims to be a Christian, he claims to be a very devout Catholic. So there is no doubt that we share a past. The Christians and the Jews, I mean, it's the same civilization, I mean, whether you like it or not. So I don't understand why such a devout, much more than me, such a devout Christian, such a devout Catholic can have such a bad attitude vis-à-vis Israel and the Jews. So I think in Portugal, and the press was very bad vis-à-vis the Gaza conflict, meaning there's a good side and a bad side, clearly. The bad side being Israel and the good side being a movement of terrorists. And then they put the children and they put everything. I mean, and if you would say something like, I was in the war in Bosnia, I was in several wars, I knew Syria very well, I was with the Syrians. I know how they use human shields, even children and women, I know very well. They, usually the Muslims, they put themselves with artillery and heavy weapons in hospitals, in schools, in that kind of... So to blame the answer that is coming from these weapons. And that is widely used since the Bosnian War mainly. So, but that it was not said. The fact that they would put the kids and the women and some old people in front of the bombardments, that nobody would say so. If I would say so, I would be in favor of those committing genocide. Okay? And eventually, all the left in Europe was saying that Israel is committing a genocide, which obviously I don't agree. It was not a genocide. I mean, bigger genocide, it's what's happening in Africa with the Christians, if you see by the numbers, or in Sudan. I mean, if you go by the numbers, you can compare it, or a genocide is 6 million people, like in the Second World War. This is genocide. So we cannot compare one thing to the other. But again, my perception is that the media, the classic media, the traditional media, paid by forces interested in destroying Israel, were the main culprits in Europe, in general, in Portugal in particular, to give an idea, a distorted idea of what was going on.
Okay, and by the way, I just read today regarding Portugal and anti-Semitism that the Fernando Pessoa University in Porto is the first university in Portugal to adopt the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definitions against anti-Semitism, which is important also, because Portugal also has a history for Jews. Porto, for example, is an important Jewish community, very thriving.
No, I think all over Portugal, Lisbon as well.
Yes.
In Porto has the most nationality concessions because of this law of the Sephardites,
yes.
Jews, was considered in Porto.
Yes.
Now they tighten up that law. I don't know the reason why. Mm-hmm. But I didn't know the news you just gave me, but I think it's very important. Mm-hmm. And I think that we have to revoke anti-Semitism, mainly in Portugal. Come on, I mean, we were together for centuries. Mm-hmm. It's not now that we are blaming the Jews for everything.
The PA is still paying families of terrorists.
May I do a comment on that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm very much alone in my analysis, but I am very much sure that I'm right. I agree with the two-state solution in about 1,000 years. Different factors. First factor, I mean, you want to end up Hamas in Gaza? No way. Second, who Hamas is growing tremendously in the West Bank. Palestinian Authority is completely corrupt, there's no authority. Third, in Jordan, there are 3 million Palestinians. If they ignite a Palestinian state, I don't know what can happen, like it happened in the past, as you remember. I think it will be a bloodbath for the worse than was years ago in the Black September. Now, the question is, to whom are you going to give the power in the Palestinian state? Which government is going to be formed? Who's going to be the president? Who's going to be elected there? I always defended that Gaza and the Palestinian territories outside Jordan should be administered by an international body composed by several countries. I've been defending that since 2 years ago. So nobody listens, okay, because they want two-state solution. And there is one conditionality, one for the two-state solution, is the Palestinians and all their allies, including Iran and so on, to recognize the state of Israel. And they will not.
I will continue with you, MEP Corrêa. In the European Parliament, you are a member of the very influential Foreign Affairs Committee. And can you tell us what is the mood today in the committee when it comes to EU's relations with Israel? And how do you view the future reasoning of the European Council in the coming months? The call for sanctions is still on the table of the European Council, and partial suspension of EU-Israel Association Council. Will they continue with such a position while the situation has changed in Gaza? We have the Trump plan, we have a ceasefire. Will they continue? Is the EU understanding the new dynamic?
Well, I think the Council and the Parliament have different composition right now. The Council is mainly a leftist body, still. We are, as you see, the elections in Europe, they are changing the political panorama. The Parliament, theoretically, for the first time in its history, has a majority of the right, if you count the EPP in. The problem here is the EPP, because if you see the three parties on the right, ESN, the Patriots, ECR, we have more or less a united position vis-à-vis Israel. But the EPP goes like this, between the socialists, the left, and us. Why is that? Because they are afraid that coming to our side, and now they are sometimes coming to our side, they will lose the initiative and they will lose the electorate, and then in the next elections we will form a clear right majority. That will happen. I have no doubts about that. But still, the EPP is trying to be the grand power broker. And I'm very easy to speak about EPP because I was one of the founders of the Portuguese Christian Democratic Party back in 1974. The CDS, which is practically non-existent now, but at the time was important, and we were part of the EPP. And it was a completely different EPP. There was an EPP which, with ideas, with beliefs. It was a real Christian democratic movement. Nowadays, as I usually say, is not Christian nor democratic. It's just trying to be a powerhouse to keep the domination. And if they keep on this strategy, they will not last long. So, to answer to your question, the Council, I have my doubts about the Council. The Parliament, if we can push the EPP against the wall, the attitude vis-à-vis Israel can change.
To wrap up this edition, MEP Corrêa, you have been a consistent supporter of the Jewish state over all the years, through your career as a diplomat and now as a member of the European Parliament. Why does Israel continue to be such a divisive issue, controversial issue for Europeans, not only governments but also the citizens? And what grounds why have you chosen this side, Israel?
No, the reasons about the public opinion in Europe, in European countries, I already said. I mean, it's basically the press, the paid press, and so on. So for me, it's no big secret. And so the people get influenced by that. But there is a factor that's going to change a lot of things, is the day that the Muslim Brotherhood will start to operate in Europe. That day is going to be a turning point in the relations with the political Islam. And that's very important. The second thing is, why did I choose the State of Israel? I didn't choose the State of Israel or to support the State of Israel. I chose my past. I chose my history. I did choose all that we have together vis-à-vis what we don't have together. Meaning, obviously, who are the greatest enemies of the Jews and the Jewish state, mainly the Jewish state? It's no longer the Nazi fascists or whatever. I mean, this is past, gone. But are the political Islam, mainly want to destroy the state of Israel. And once they destroy the state of Israel, Europe will be completely open for their own actions. I mean, you don't even have to think about it. It is like this. So it's not something that you think over and you have a strategy. No, it's something that comes from the inside to the outside. And if people don't feel that, don't think that, don't read the history book of Europe, the history book of Portugal, that's a problem.
That was all for this edition of the European Report. Thank you to MEP António Tânger Corrêa and Thomas Sandel for this very interesting discussion around the EU-Israel relations. To our readers, as always, if you like our program, please feel free to share the YouTube link with your friends and colleagues. My name is Yossi Lemkovic, and this has been the European Report. See you again next month.